Hmm. Okay, there they go.
Alright, so welcome to another race here in our Link's Awakening DX tournament. Any percent, no save and quit, no wrong warp, no out of bounds. As we said, we have GreenTunic versus Black here. Should be an interesting race.
So just to get out of the way, the category no wrong warp, no out of bounds means that there's wrong warp means that if you go through a door or something, you have to go where the game intends, and no out of bounds is mostly logical, but it just means you can't really go where you're not supposed to be. And no save and quit means that you can't actually save and quit. You're allowed to bring up the menu, but save and quitting is not permitted.
Yeah, so right here, both of them were going for something called Quicksword, where if you hit off of that spiny creature, you can actually damage boost into picking up the sword slightly earlier than normal, which is always nice. It looks like Vlack got the fastest version, where GreenTunic didn't. He got a faster than normal version, but still not the most optimal.
Yeah, so having gotten the sword, they're now heading into the forest to get the Dungeon 1 key. It's sort of just movement for now, but once they get into the forest, there's a little bit of tech, which we can explain when we get a bit closer to it. This is the owl. You'll see him like a billion times throughout the run. Everyone hates him. He's the worst part of this run.
Yeah, he just talks and talks, and you just have to mash through him. There are a couple of tricks we can do to skip some of his text or some of his animations, but he's still a pain.
Yeah, so they're going to pass through this cave here and collect 50 rupees, which are all the money we really need in this run. This cave is useful because it's actually along the way to the tail key, the Dungeon 1 key. So we can pick those up and be ready for any money we need to spend.
Yeah, so now we're coming here to the first main skip of the game. It's called Moblin Skip. Essentially, the idea is that if you damage boost off of one of these Moblin spears correctly, then you can actually get across this pit, which you're really not supposed to be able to do. Looks like GreenTunic got it there, but it's really the first source of RNG in the run, because you can try to move the Moblin into position, but it's RNG whether he is gonna move exactly where you want and fire a zero.
There's also a little trick there we saw from Vlack, where he was actually able to leave that screen before the owl started talking to him. It is a 1-frame input, so it's very tight. But it allowed him to catch up a little bit on GreenTunic. Vlack actually picked up the mushroom in the forest, which apart from TGH, I don't think any other runners are actually doing right now, but it allows him to change his route up until Dungeon 2 a little bit. Hopefully it's faster.
Yeah, I think if you do everything correctly with it, it's a little bit faster, but not by much. So most runners don't pick up the mushroom.
Yep. And since GreenTunic didn't grab it, he has to go to the trendy game and grab the powder. Vlack will actually be trading the mushroom for powder later, so once they get to D2, they'll be sort of on even footing. Oh no! GreenTunic almost dying to that dog, pulling a TGH, I guess.
Yeah, usually you don't care too much about health, because as you saw on Vlack's screen, the shopkeeper kills you when you steal an item from his shop. But that fox is pretty much the one thing that can kill you, potentially.
Yep. And there's another thing called Piece of Power, which drops depending on your kill count. And up until the time you die, you also don't care about your kills because it's reset when you die.
Yeah, so with Piece of Power, and we'll get into this a little bit more later, runners will be thinking very carefully about which enemies they're killing, and so that they can get their Piece of Power to drop in the right position, which will be a lot more important in later dungeons.
Yeah, Vlack actually is using the bow in Dungeon 1, which your resource count is like it's hard to manage. It's really tight, so he's actually taking a lot of risks using his arrows here.
Aw, GreenTunic trying to get that pit walk.
Yeah, I think he said before he'll go for it twice. Oh, 3 times.
Ah, there we go.
I guess he showed me wrong. He just keeps going until he gets it.
You just have to do it for the swag.
So Vlack is coming up on the chest with the Dungeon 1 item, which is the Rock's Feather. It allows you to jump and entirely destroy the game. So it's nice that we get it very quickly in the game.
Yeah, the developers really underestimated the power of the Rock's Feather. Even without using glitches, you can really jump diagonally a little bit further than I think the developers really thought that you would be able to do.
So right there, Vlack used a mushroom while he's on the pit, and that sort of just pushed him down into the wall, allowing him to do a trick called a super jump. You basically trick the game into thinking you're going off of a ledge, and that allowed him to get up to the boss key without having to actually do the proper opening key block strategy.
Yeah, and that particular method of doing that, you need the mushroom to do. So GreenTunic, since he does not have the mushroom, he'll be going a slightly different route to get the Nightmare Key.
Yeah, technically you don't need the mushroom, but otherwise you're up to basically luck whether or not it works quickly. Also, just for a note, it looks like Vlack is very far ahead, but just because of his route difference, like we won't really be able to tell until they get to D2. So even though he's finishing D1, like maybe 30-40 seconds ahead of GreenTunic, GreenTunic might still be on perfect pace.
Yeah, at this point it's a little hard to tell because Vlack will purposefully have to go to the witch's hut, which wastes some time. So we'll see. So now Vlack here is heading to the Moblin Cave, where he'll be picking up our constant companion throughout this run, Bow Wow.
Bow Wow is the best part of the game, and he never makes you sad or anything, or causes you to lose time. He has this uncanny ability to eat basically anything, including enemies and more. You need him in order to get into Dungeon 2 because there are flowers in front of it that apparently swords can't cut, so Bow Wow has to eat those for you. But you'll see when they get there that could take as long as Bow Wow really feels like.
Yeah, here Vlack is in the witch's hut, which GreenTunic won't be going to.
Yep, so he has now traded his mushroom in for magic powder. Which, sadly, Dungeon 2 is the only place in the game we actually require it. Apart from that, it's entirely useless, and if we could cut that out, having the mushroom would be entirely better.
Well, to be fair, it can also be used in the final boss if you miss a skip.
Well, actually, mushroom is instant kill on the blob.
Oh,
for some
really?
reason. Yeah.
Huh, did not know.
Who knows? Yeah, so at this point their routes are about converged, so we can see that Vlack is a little bit ahead. Having killed the Moblin King a little bit faster.
It was those pit walks.
Yeah, probably. And Vlack just pulling out a trick there called the vlackSR. Basically walking into those rocks pops up a message about how they're too heavy to lift, but during that text box you can actually move a tiny bit where you shouldn't, so it pushes you through that corner there. And we'll be seeing that GreenTunic done in just a moment.
Yeah, we use this trick quite often in this run. just to get around these rocks, to get around key blocks. And here in GreenTunic's screen, you can see why Bow Wow can be extremely annoying, because it's really up to him when he eats those flowers. So you just kind of have to hope that Bow Wow is hungry that day.
Yep, and we kind of missed pointing out, but we have GreenTunic grabbing an Ellen Black God as well. The Piece of Power. It's a pickup that makes Link move 25% faster. He does more damage, and he has knockback to his attacks. So in some of the dungeons, the runners always try to get it for the extra speed, and the damage doesn't hurt. And that drops every 30 kills.
Yeah, it changes a little bit as you progress through the game. I think it's dependent on like how many hearts you have or something. It turns to 35 like after 7 hearts or something or other. Forget exactly.
Yeah, it's after D5 you'll have 7 hearts and it turns to 35. And then at 12 hearts, which I think is basically having completed all 8 dungeons, it increases to 40. Also, Piece of Power runs out if you leave a dungeon or if you take 3 hits of damage from enemies, and Black just took 2 from that room, so 1 more hit and it's gone. Luckily, dungeon's almost done. And GreenTunic going for old school ghost strats.
Yeah, it's too bad Black's stream seems to be cutting in and out a little bit. But now here we have this, the boss of Dungeon 2, the Genie. The thing with him is that casually there's this long sequence you have to go through of breaking his pot, but if you clip into the wall and throw the pot, it actually breaks it instantly, and using a bomb and a well-placed bomb arrow, you can actually kill the boss very quickly.
Yeah, normally you'd have to throw the pot 3 times against a wall, I think. Or 2, depending on which localization you have. But obviously throwing it only once is much faster.
Yeah, plus he talks to you. It shakes up even more time. Ugh. Gotta go fast, no time for chatting.
So now Vlak's on his way to Dungeon 3, avoiding the Heart Piece of Shame, of course. Along the way, he'll be trying to count how many kills Bow Wow gets, because he wants to get another Piece of Power in Dungeon 3. And if Bow Wow doesn't eat enough, or if he eats too much, Vlak might try to kill more or fewer things. Because there's a certain place in D3 we want it to drop, so we can try to control it for Dungeon 5 as well.
Yeah, Dungeon 5 is where Piece of Power becomes very, very useful. Saves about 30 to 40 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, not even recently anymore, it was like 9 months. The route for D3 changed and it resulted in getting a lot more kills. So, timing Piece of Power for D5 is a little bit trickier now, but most people still don't have too much trouble. But Bow Wow is always a problem in that regard.
So Vlak here going for something called Villa Skip. As you heard, the sound of Link falling in the pit played. And when that happens, if you hold down, it actually pushes you into the next screen and kind of moves you to the bottom. It saves a lot of time because it skips over this big side quest you have involving getting these leaves from this castle. It's so that you can get into this garden area, but using that Villa Skip, you can just go directly to the key, which looks like a leaf, but we promise it's an actual key.
Yeah, the game is silly and actually uses the same memory address for how many leaves you have and whether or not you have the key. So by just picking up that last leaf, it automatically sets the count to 6 or something like that, and it counts as the key, even though it looks like a leaf. And
also showing off how wonderfully Grandela DX is. You can just clip into the keyhole from the top and put it in that way. Saves you having to go completely around.
Well, I think the architects just put a keyhole in the back.
Yeah, that could also be true.
So anyway, heading through D3, GreenTunic just jumping past those enemies. He doesn't need any extra kills for his piece of power, which should be dropping right where Vlack is. And now, coming up on one of the best tricks in the game, Dong Skip. It's a very quick super jump followed by tinking off of the Dodongo with your sword. Allowing you to skip over that boss battle and get to the Pegasus boots very quickly.
GreenTunic got his piece of power a little bit early, but still managed to get it. Yeah, the thing with Dodongo Skip or Dong Skip is that if you do your super jump incorrectly or not quickly enough, then you can actually get stuck in those blocks, and then you'll have to soft lock, and then you're off lock, so you have to save and quit to get out of it.
Yeah, we don't expect either of these guys to soft lock, but if they do, normally this run would be invalidated, but for the sake of the race, they're allowed to save and quit and return to that same screen to continue.
Yeah, there are a few places in this run where soft locks are possible. Hopefully we won't see any of them today.
There are actually like a lot of places the game can just decide to freeze on opening a menu or something like that. I've had just a random freeze in Dungeon 7 from opening the menu.
Huh.
That can just happen out of nowhere.
Hasn't happened to me yet, but...
Give it time. So anyway, we missed really commenting on this boss fight from Vlack, but it's pretty quick. They just split the eye and then slash it a couple times. They bonk off the wall at the top there to prevent being stunned, and then they just kill the two eyes right at the end.
Yeah, and this is also one of the cases where having Piece of Power is very useful, because you only have to slash your sword in that case to do a good amount of damage, as opposed to if you didn't have Piece of Power, you would really need to be spin slashing.
And I don't think I saw GreenTunic change his equips here, so he's not going to do a bomb trigger. But there's a trick you can do there on the left to skip the animation of that owl flying in. You still have to listen to him, but it saves a few seconds. However, Vlack is coming up on a very real bomb trigger. Do you want to explain that one?
Sure. So the idea here is that with these bomb triggers, you can use them to activate cutscenes. So normally you're supposed to have Marin here in the ocarina, but using bomb triggers, you can get the cutscene to play.
And that was like phenomenal timing of Vlack's stream lagging. It sort of just went white for a few seconds and stuff was happening, but he actually did stuff during that whiteout.
Yeah, the reason you can get a soft lock on this is that if you don't leave the screen at the right time, then you can get stuck. And then if there's also a version where the walrus won't actually disappear, and you can't actually use your buttons or your menu during this point, so you just get completely stuck. But to avoid that, to solve that, if you enter a cave, then it resets all of your buttons.
Yep. The method that GreenTunic did is a little bit riskier because you have to watch basically the brim of Link's hat at the top of the screen and react depending on that. Whereas the way Vlack did it, not that you saw it, but he just has fixed inputs, he has no reaction necessary. So it's just free.
As long as you get the setup correct.
Yep.
Yeah, I find that going from the top method, the setup is easier, but then you have to worry about, like you said, the brim of Link's hat and moving off the screen, whereas from the side it's a little harder to set up, but if you know how to do it, it's always consistent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the top method was the first 100% consistent method people found. So a lot of the newer runners, and even some of the older runners like GreenTunic who haven't bothered to learn new methods, they still go with that because there are more guides recommending it.
So now that Vlack has the key to Dungeon 4, he's going to be first coming down here to actually open the dungeon.
Yeah, he's gonna open the dungeon for sure. Shoutouts to Crunchy. I know you're there.
And now, since the dungeon is open, he'll be making his way up the mountain a little bit so he can drop down from above.
Yep. And just a fun little fact is that for the screen with the dungeon door, if you were to open it and then enter the door without leaving that screen through some sort of glitches, you would actually not end up in the dungeon, you'd end up somewhere else entirely. And that's something called a wrong warp, which is not allowed.
No wrong warps here.
So you want to explain the second most important trick in the game here?
Yes, obstacle skip. So the idea, as you saw Vlack do, thankfully it's streamed in and cut out right there, but the idea is that usually for those green jewel things you have to run into them with the Pegasus boots to destroy them, but that one you can actually get around by having a well-timed jump in the right position. It really doesn't save that much time, but you kind of have to go for it. Very important.
It saves about half a second, and if you fall in or if you accidentally talk to the block there, you lose way more time than you did gain. And also, GreenTunic just lost his piece of power in the cave.
Yeah,
so
really
probably gonna... Yeah, he's probably going to be trying to rack up a few extra kills in D4 here, in hopes that it'll appear in D5 where he wants it.
Yeah, he did get his piece of power in D3 pretty early, so that probably had to do with it.
Yeah, I wasn't really paying too much attention, but I guess Bow Wow was just eating way too much on the way to D3.
Yeah. And even though... Oh,
sorry, go ahead.
You go ahead.
Alright, I was just gonna say, another thing that can happen is piece of power can actually drop from Cue Ball, but because he always, like, guaranteed drops a fairy, the fairy overwrites it, so you just lose piece of power and you don't even see it.
Yeah, so you can have situations where you think you're good and then you enter D5 and you're starting to kill enemies, you're like, where's my piece of power? Where did it go?
And then you get a piece of power right at the end and you have to question whether or not it's worth it to grab.
Yeah.
And there is another pickup similar called the Guardian Acorn, which reduces the damage you take. It drops every 12 kills without taking damage, but if you have Guardian Acorn active, piece of power cannot drop, so if anyone, God forbid, actually gets the Acorn, they'll try to take some hits just to make sure they can get piece of power.
Yeah, so another thing you probably noticed was that with D4, we're actually leaving it without getting the instrument. The reason for that is that there's this whole little side quest that happens after you beat D4, where you have to escort this ghost around and lead him to his grave and so on. Vlack getting piece of power right where he wants it. But if you just get the flippers, leave, and then come back later, then that when you get the instrument then the ghost side quest part won't happen.
Yeah,
so that's why we leave.
For some reason, grabbing the level 2 power bracelet in D6 causes the quest to not happen. We're not really sure why that's the trigger, but it works for us. Also, just to note, jumping underwater where GreenTunic is now actually makes you go a little bit faster, as well as rising faster there. And Vlack coming up on the first of 4 encounters with a mini-boss here. Master Stalfos is a big meanie who stole the hookshot, so we have to kill him 4 times to get it back.
Yeah, Master Selphos is very annoying, and he's kind of the reason why D5 is the longest dungeon in the speed run, just because you have to beat him 4 times in a particular order, which really takes you all around the dungeon.
Yeah, the room GreenTunic's just leaving, we're gonna have to go all the way back there once we finish the other 3 fights, so that's the last place we kill him. Like, despite, arguably, we do break this dungeon quite a bit, but we still have to run around a lot.
Yeah, it's still very long. Lots of backtracking.
And GreenTunic and a bunch of extra kills, hoping for the Priest of Power not too late.
Yeah, the thing with this dungeon is the reason Piece of Power is so important to have in this dungeon is just because you're backtracking and moving around the dungeon a lot, so that additional movement speed is really helpful. But one thing Piece of Power does is that it actually, when you hit enemies, it knocks them back, which is not really what you want for the boss of this dungeon. So you want to lose Piece of Power before you get to the boss room, but that requires you to get hit 3 times. So if you manage to get Piece of Power like at the very end of the dungeon, then it's really not worth it to pick it up.
So yeah, having finished his 3 fights, Black's now heading back to kill Master Stalfos for the 4th time, while GreenTunic is fighting him for the 3rd time here. After GreenTunic finishes this fight, he'll be going into an underwater thing to get the boss key. Normally you'd actually need the hookshot to grab it, but we do a really nice Pegasus boot jump and get over the pit because the designers are really, really good.
Yeah, the reason we do this now is just normally you have to have the hookshot, but by doing it here, it saves you having to come all the way back here once you get the hookshot.
Yeah, so you basically land on the border between 2 pits, which for some reason is solid ground, and that allows you to squeak your way down.
I'm sure it made sense to the developers.
Hey, there's 2 pits, let's put solid ground between them. So Vlack's now getting very close to the final boss of the dungeon, so in the next couple of rooms he's going to take some damage to get rid of his Piece of Power. There it is.
It's not typically where you lose your or get the damage, but whatever. So
yeah, it's only about a room early, but so it doesn't really lose any time. Because the next room he uses his boots to dash through anyway. Unfortunately, I think GreenTunic's going to finish the dungeon without ever getting Piece of Power.
Yeah, I think you're right on that.
And he's just wasted a bomb arrow. His resource count looks good though, so it shouldn't hurt him.
Yeah, so Vlack here making pretty quick work of the D5 boss, Wall Snake. The thing with him is that it is random which side of which pit he comes out of, but there's actually some positions you can stand that gives you enough time to be able to move to the left or the right and get him. So you can beat him in a 2 cycle, which is what Vlack did, so very nice.
Or if you're really, really good, you get hit by the tail a bunch and die. Which is very real threat, especially when you're starting out. Although you can do a 2 cycle and there's like a fairly decent strat for it, you do have to be able to react quite quickly.
Yeah, so Vlack now is going to be heading to the Armos Maze to get the key to Dungeon 6. So the nice thing about the Armos Maze is that when Bow Wow eats an enemy, eats the Armoses, they drop arrows. So it's a very good spot to beef up on your arrow count if it's a little bit low, which it may be considering you use bomb arrows for the Master Salphos fight. Typically you get like 2 or 3 arrows.
Yeah, at this point all they need is, I think, 4 arrows or so in order to do the stuff they need. And then they'll be getting more pickups later, packs of 10. So, like, Black's picked up 2 already, he's set. Although, actually, he has a slightly different route, so I don't know if he requires more arrows than most other people. But he does have this super cool boot strats for the Armos Knight.
Yeah, so similar to Vitreous, when the Armos Knight comes up and slams down, he actually stuns you. But if you're in the air when he does that, then the stun doesn't affect you. So if you do some very nice timed jumps with bonking off of the wall and attacking him with your sword, then you can make quick work of him. The method Vlack using is, I believe, the fastest method, but it can be very dangerous if you mess up.
Yeah, in terms of the time to kill, it's about the same as other people's, but the difference between him and other people's, he puts the knight down by the doorway, so he saves a second or two on leaving the room. And by going around the left there, as Vlack did, he's pretty much guaranteed that Bow Wow will eat that Armos Knight, or statue. Otherwise he'd have to tank a hit off of it and take some damage. And I believe they do 2 damage? So quite a bit.
That's right.
They actually do more than the Blymeal, the boss of D5.
So Vlack there did a trick where Bow Wow has another talent with his eating. He can actually eat cutscenes. So by firing off a bomb arrow in a certain location there, you can actually eat the cutscene of the tower raising out of the ground. Which, Vlack a little low on hearts. Which allows you to move around while the cutscene is playing, and you can get into the dungeon a little faster.
And Vlack gets a really nice D6 piece of power there. It makes one trick a little bit tougher, but it makes you a lot faster as well. So it's a nice trade-off.
Vlack not going for the safety fairy under that other pot in that power bracelet room, so hopefully nothing bad will happen.
Risk versus reward.
Indeed.
Luckily he's able to hookshot that pot from up close to actually make himself invincible for the rest of this room. So he doesn't really have to worry about these tiles. And there shouldn't really be too much to hit him before he can get some hearts. There's
Maybe the Tektites.
Yeah, but they only do half heart, so it's alright. There's a room up ahead with horse heads in it, and 2 of the pots there have hearts under them if you know where to look. And Vlack doing a nice super jump that cuts out a good portion of the dungeon, going right to the boss key there. And then he'll be doing another super jump in just a... Oh, he's doing the boot thing. That's really cool. Doing that super jump there to make his way to the boss very quickly.
Yeah, that super jump is actually another soft lock potential. I believe it's if you do it too low, then you won't make the jump, but if you do it too high, you get stuck in a wall. Thankfully, there's a very easy-to-see visual cue with the ripples in the water, so not too hard.
Oh, and Vlack knows just where the hearts are there, too. And this is Horseheads, and he's doing a bit better than I did last night, but each Horsehead has a 50% chance to stand up when you throw it. and you need both of them to stand up. That's technically a 25% chance of success, but it's so much lower in actuality.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't feel like 25%.
Yeah, I had like 14 try last night according to chat.
I had a run last week that it was 20.
So it's about 25%. And there's Facade. He's the second enemy in the game who we actually just destroy before he even shows up. So we get 3 bombs on him before he appears, and then 2 more bombs and he's done.
Yeah, despite the fact that he's not completely on screen, his hitbox is still there.
Yeah, and the flying tiles in that room can actually do a whole heart of damage each. So even for someone like Vlack, who is obviously very good at the game, you can still get hit, and it was smart of him to get extra hearts just in case. Because he really didn't lose time grabbing them.
So now that Vlack has gotten the level 2 bracelet from D6, but before that, he did a bomb trigger here, which actually skips the animation of the owl coming in. Saves a little bit of time, but you have to be a little careful with your bomb count because we'll be doing a lot of bomb triggers in one of the dungeons ahead.
And unlike after D3, almost everyone does that bomb trigger, just because you already have the proper equipment for it.
Yeah, the only times where you want it is if either you don't have the timing for it right, like you would need to use a menu to buffer it in, or if your bomb count is so low that you're nervous about not having enough bombs for all the bomb triggers later on.
Yeah, and just on the topic of bomb count, Vlack is at 10 right now, and he's not going to use any on anglerfish as most people do, so that means he has only 10 to do 4 bomb triggers in D7, as well as bombing 1 wall. Each bomb trigger requires 2 bombs, so he has only 1 bomb to spare there. So if he messes up doing like a pit trigger or something, he could run out and have to go up to the top floor to restock.
Yeah, it really wastes a lot of time.
And Vlack just opened the menu there to skip over the dialogue of the fish. They do that on all the bosses. They open some menu to prevent the text, as well as opening save and quit menus on chests to prevent that text.
Yeah, but even with just using the sword, anglerfish is a very easy boss. Went down very quickly. With bombs, he goes down even faster. Now GreenTunic getting his bomb trigger for the owl as well.
Mm-hmm. Also, just like for anglerfish, his hitbox is so small. Like you saw, Vlack was right inside of him and still didn't get hurt. So as long as you know where to be, you can just slash away and not have to worry about damage. But having finished up D4 finally, Vlack is now on his way to one of the worst tricks in the game in terms of potential time loss. It's the dreaded rooster skip. Do you want to explain that one?
Yeah, so the idea here is that you have to get the key to the next dungeon, and normally that involves getting the ocarina, going back to the main village to wake up this dead rooster, and then you can use him to get over this pit to get to the key. But instead of doing that, when you can actually use your hookshot to get over the pit, because when the hookshot retracts, you have 1 frame where you can actually give inputs without falling. Ooh, got the obstacle skip there, good. And so if you have good timing, you can actually get across the pit with 2 of these jumps. So you can do this method. There's a buffered method and an unbuffered method. So we'll see what Vlack goes for here.
Vlack,
I assume
he actually goes for an entirely different strat from everyone else. He just does a single jump there and then 2 more. The first jump is sort of free if you mash, and then the other 2, you still have to time them, but I think he tries to prevent going too close to the pits, like he stays on the corners between them.
Yeah, Vlack was actually very close to falling just because when you fire your hookshot, if Bow Wow gets in the way, then the hookshot will actually tink off of Bow Wow, and he won't have a lot of time to react. So it looks like Bow Wow, he tinked off of Bow Wow once or twice, but still managed to stay up, thankfully.
Yeah, it's always scary when you have Bow Wow, because if you're not really paying attention to it, you're expecting your hookshot to hit the wall, but you can just fall right in the pit with Bow Wow. He's a blessing and a curse.
Well, I think his uses outweigh his disadvantages. Plus, I mean, look at him. Who wouldn't want to take him all around the island?
A lot of people probably.
Aw, so mean.
If we could find a way for it to be faster, we would.
Vlack there performing another cutscene eat to get into this dungeon. It stops the cutscene of the tower moving around, which is nice.
And once he gets to the next floor, he's just gonna start destroying this dungeon. Anyone who's played this casually knows that you have to carry a big ball around to smash 4 pillars. But instead of doing that, because it takes way too much time, you just do a few bomb triggers and destroy the pillars that way. I mean, it's like using your bombs for their intended purpose of destroying things. Ooh, wasted 1 bomb there.
Yeah, I can't waste any more.
So right there, he has to hit the bomb button twice within 4 frames. So he has to be really quick.
Yeah, there's methods you can do where you can use your menu to buffer in the bombs, both on screen transitions and on pits. Obviously, it's faster to not do that. And it looks like GreenTunic got his booster skip all right.
Yeah, so having done those bomb triggers, Vlack is now ready to go kill the boss. First he has to do a trick called the Goomba Surf, in which he does a naked super jump off this bottom wall on the head of a Goomba in order to get onto this ledge. You're really up to the whims of the Goombas, which way they want to go, and then you still have to do the super jump, which it can be pretty hard to get. Like even TGH last night, I guess, was messing it up a little bit, and he's the world record holder. So, you know, everyone can mess up.
Yeah, there's actually another method you can do where you do a super jump in another room and bonk off a P-hat. It's a little more consistent because there's not the RNG of the Goomba, but it is like 10-ish seconds slower, 15 seconds compared to an optimal Goomba surf.
Yeah, there's also the 100% consistent method of getting the boss key, which Cravone did. But that wastes like a minute or 2. So we have GreenTunic doing his bomb triggers here. He messed up his first one on the transition, so it looks like he's just going for pits now. But his mashing is solid.
So Vlack doing this trick here opens up a save and quit menu, and afterwards you can actually buffer in a direction, so he skips that going into that pit down there, which puts you way out of the way. So now he can just come up this ladder and head off to the next dungeon. But before he gets there, he will have to perform a skip called Marin Skip.
He'll save Marin, right? Because she's the best.
Unfortunately, speed is more important here. Speed is our true love.
Now, normally you'd have to hookshot across and grab Marin along the way, and she'll give you this big speech about how much she loves you, and then her dad comes in, he's like, yay, thank you for saving her. Then the owl comes in, he's like, thank you for saving her, now go to the dungeon. And that takes about 40 to 50 seconds with all the dialogue. So instead we just jump past. Again, the designers did know how powerful the boots and the feather were together.
Yeah, you can always jump a little bit further than the developers think you could, so... but you have to be quick, because if you stay too long on that one portion of the bridge, then the cutscene will still play.
And also obligatory, Marin is not best girl.
Aww.
Oh.
Who is best girl, then? So many to choose from in LADX.
The hippo?
Ah, that's true.
There's a hippo in Animal Village who has boobies in the Japanese version and was censored in North America.
You can't have those.
Nope. So we got...
But Bow Wow isn't a girl, chat.
You don't know that.
I think they say at one point.
I choose to believe otherwise. So anyway, Vlack... It's not even like doing really tricks. Just knowing that the bomb walls are there. I think the designers didn't know about bomb arrows, so they put these shortcuts back and didn't realize you could go forwards through them if you knew they were there. So he goes and grabs a couple of quick small keys, then heads to the mini-boss, Blano. I don't know what to say about Blano.
Well, annoyingly with Blano, we used to be able to skip him, but no longer. Because of how out of bounds was defined, it actually was revealed you can't skip Blano due to having to jump on a certain tile that you can't normally access. So we have to take Blano down, but thankfully he's not too bad of a boss. Mini-boss.
Basically, for our out of bounds rules, you can't go more than one tile away from a tile that you could normally get to. So unfortunately, a lot of things are, like, even though they are normal tiles, they're out of bounds just because you normally can't get over there. So we basically crafted the rules that way so we can still do super jumps.
So Vlack here heading to another version of Cue Ball. Pretty much the exact same thing as before. Don't fall into the lava.
He's basically just a joke. And right here we have... Someone called it the Roomba the other night. You have to control it with your D-pad to fill in all the holes here. And once it does that, you get the chest with the boss key. You can fall in there, and if you do, you go to the beginning of the room. That's not too bad, but if you make a mistake with the Roombaing, it will just disappear and you have to start over from the beginning. And that kind of sucks.
Yes, I believe we're going to officially call that the Roomba from now on.
The Roomba Room.
There we go.
And Vlack coming up on the most mysterious boss in the game, Hothead. He has health. We don't know how it works, but we kill him anyway. Like, he has just some weird iframes that we really can't understand, because there's 3 or 4 different timers going along with it. And they don't make sense.
There you go, Crunchy. That is your legacy. Also Wang Boys. So the idea is that there's a little graphical glitch you can do by swinging the magic rod at a certain time.
And if you're really, really good, you can get Sidewang, where it points to the left.
Ouch.
So having finished Dungeon 8 and collected the last instrument, Vlad is now heading to the Windfish Egg so he can wake the space whale. He basically just goes there and does one, I guess, second last bomb trigger in the game to trigger the cutscene that we'd normally need the Ocarina for.
Yeah, so you may be wondering, well, we can get to this, to the Windfish Egg pretty early. Why don't we just go there and do a bomb trigger just directly? However, you do actually need to get all of the instruments because there are cutscenes that play for if you have fewer than all of the instruments. So if you do a bomb trigger when you don't have them all, one of those cutscenes will play instead of the Windfish Egg opening up cutscene.
Yeah, and right now Vlak's just stretching his hands because he's sitting here for about 50 seconds. If anyone finds some way to skip this cutscene, then you'll be everyone's hero and you will have destroyed any percent. Or at least the no woob categories.
I like this cutscene though. Nice music.
But it takes too long.
I suppose.
So, the last dialogue with the owl, while it still matters, and then he's into the egg. There's a little maze here, but as long as you don't actually learn the solution in the game, it's always the same, for some great programming reason.
Yeah, I suppose they just needed some default thing for the maze.
Yeah, normally you'd have to complete the trading sequence and find a book in the library with the code, but trading sequences take way too long.
So Vlad there performing the last bomb trigger of the game, skips the text, also skips the music, unfortunately.
Oh, but missed the quick kill on the blob. If you're aligned properly, you might get a quick kill, where the blob just, it'll stay there and it's like full-sized whatever and take a few hits of damage. But even with proper alignment, it's still RNG.
And speaking of RNG, we have Aghanim here. So he fires 2 shots at you that you can actually reflect back at him for damage. But after that, it is a 50-50 shot whether he'll give you the good balls that you can reflect or blue balls which you can't. And it's really up to him which one he fires. You can do a slight manipulation if he stays in the same spot, but you can't control whether or not he stays in the same spot. So really, you just have to wait and hope you get the good shots.
And unlike in Link to the Past, he can give you blue balls forever. Every time it's just a 50-50, and if he doesn't like you, you're gonna get a blue ball. But luckily Vlak, I think, only got 1 there.
And almost getting the Moldorm quick kill.
Yeah, there's
some shots in though.
There's a new position that TGH found where you can just mash your sword as fast as you want instead of having to time it. But I guess Vlak just missed it a little bit. Then he kills Ganon and Landmola, apparently. And then he's on to the final phase of Deathel, where RNG is the king.
Yeah, so the idea here with Deathel is that when he opens his eye, you can get a maximum of 4 arrow shots in there. But when he opens his eyes, really up to him. So you just kind of have to wait, dodge his arms.
It's already getting pretty bad RNG from it.
Ooh, GreenTunic not getting the text skip here.
We already have Vlax done in chat, but we'll wait until we actually see him finish before revealing the time. But yeah, this Deathel was definitely not kind to him. But it's still an incredible run. So, Vlak has finished with an SRL time of 54:33, which is unfortunately not a race world record or whatever. TGH still has the best race time at 54:01, but that's still an incredible race.
Yeah, so GreenTunic here, still facing Aghanim.
Oh, and actually, since GreenTunic didn't get the quick skip, for the... Oh, holy shit.
Ah! What was that?
I don't know. That was you.
I didn't do anything. That was scary.
Ow.
It must have been the nightmares, I guess.
Alright, and Vlack has said he's not going to hop in for an interview.
Alright.
So just congratulations to him on his win, and he will be advancing to face Bamboo Shadow next week. Sometime. So GreenTunic actually getting fairly nice looking RNG on Devil here. Although now that I've said it, I've ruined it.
You jinxed it.
But wait, there's a delay, so this has already happened.
Seeing into the future. There we go.
Alright, we have GreenTunic's finish time of 56:37. So that's still a really good pace for him, given that it's in a tournament setting.
Very nice.
So let's just see if he wants to pop in for an interview.
Looks like he's in the general chat voice channel. I don't know how to bring him in.
Oh, I don't actually see him there. If you can just drag him in.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey, GreenTunic.
So, that race wasn't too good for me.
Yeah, it kind of seemed to go downhill from basically D3.
Like, the start was pretty bad. You know, I put it down to just not putting enough time into practicing kind of prior to it. I definitely should have put more time into it, should have found the time. But, yeah, fun race nonetheless.
Hello.
Hey, GreenTunic. Getting a little bit of echo from somebody. Yeah, it kind of seemed to go downhill. That could be me.
I don't think it's me.
I think it's you, GreenTunic. But yeah, like, apart from the piece of power dropping too early in D3, which I'm not sure if that was because of Bow Wow, but it seemed that just threw you off a little bit.
Yeah, well, my piece of power kind of messed up, and I spent forever trying to get it back in D5 because I got it really early. I got it before Dungeon 4.
Yeah.
So I was like trying to kill some extra enemies because I was like, well, maybe I could get it mid-dungeon, better than nothing. But that just wasted a bunch of time, so... Yeah. But anyway, Black is an amazing runner, so I do not feel bad about losing to him. I'm looking forward to the rest of the tourney, to be honest. I'm sure it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, the next race is going to be between Vlack and Bamboo. It's going to be incredible, because their PBs are only about 1 minute and 15 apart.
Yeah, it will be really close.
And with RNG, I mean, they're about as good as you're going to get.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it looks like the next scheduled race is going to be between Dragon and Stanner on Sunday at 3 p.m. EDT.
Hopefully I'll be able to catch that one. I know Stanner's been kind of busy with other stuff recently,
yes,
but...
Stanner is right now on vacation, I think. Or he's away from home, so he's not...
He gets back on Sunday, so...
Yeah, he's basically getting home and then doing the race, so he's not going to have too much practice, unfortunately.
Probably going to
But-
be a bit jet lagged. Let's see.
Well, let's hope for a good race.
Mhm. Yeah, all the races going forwards are going to be incredible. Like, with everyone being so close together. So it'll be awesome to watch. Anyway, do you have any final comments, GreenTunic?
Just happy to have been a part of the tournament. I'm pretty happy to have gotten to where I got to. Quarterfinals is fine with me. Yeah, looking forward to the rest of it.
Alright, sounds
All right.
good.
Well,
So,
looking at the speed gaming schedule, we have a Link to the Past randomizer that's just started a few minutes ago, and that's going to continue until about 11 o'clock tonight. And then on Speed Gaming 2, we have 3 Super Metroid randomizer matches going until 11:30, it looks like, or midnight. So if you want to catch Super Metroid, head over to Speed Gaming 2 in an hour. And then at 9:30 on Speed Gaming 3, we have another Link to the Past randomizer.
so many randomizers.
Yeah, and soon enough, Link's Awakening is going to have its own randomizer. It's going to be awesome. So anyway, I was Spicefather, and with me was White Wolfos, and thank you for watching, and have a good night.
Yeah, have a good night, everyone. See ya.